Hey guys, how's it going? Today, I am working on setting up our live stream for this weekend. Because of weather, we're not gonna be able to meet outside live like we normally would and stream that. So we're doing a pre-recorded service that will go out on our platforms for this weekend. So I'm gonna dive into Premiere Pro and show you how I set that up, how I set up my workflow, and how we use multiple cameras within there. So let's go ahead and jump on into Premiere Pro and I'll show you what I'm doing. So we're right here in a Premiere Pro setup. This is how I have my screen set up. All my effects and controls are over here with my telemetry scopes if I ever need to see those. My main program window is right here. And then I have all of my other tools. This is where I'll input all of my footage, and then my timeline's down here. I have a 34-inch widescreen that I normally have this much more spread out over, but for you guys, so that it, comes out properly, it's all shrunk right now. But anyway, so this is where I have things that I can pull everything in and do what I need to do. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set up my bins. So I wanna make sure I keep things really nice and organized. This is week 1 of our series that we're starting. And then within that, I'm going to create a few other bins. We're gonna do one for worship, intro and outro, announcements, message. And those are basically the 4 chunks of things that I will be creating. So all of my different footage will come in there. We're gonna do our worship. So let me go get my footage and we're gonna come into our worship folder here. And these are all my cameras that I have right here. So we're gonna pull all of these into Premiere. Then I'm also gonna grab my audio. I've already gone and mixed that down in Logic. I record on our X32 at our office and pull out those files and edit those in Logic so that then I can have a full bounce out here of our audio of our worship. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a new sequence, and we're just gonna call this, actually we're gonna name this the date that we're doing this, worship. I'm going to pull all of my files. I'm gonna start with this one. This is our main wide shot that you can see here that I have done. So I'm gonna pull that in here first. And then I'm gonna go ahead and line these up by myself. Now there's a different way to do this so that Premiere will line them up and make a multi-track for you. It hasn't been working for me recently. It's not finding its sync point. So a lot of times I have to do this by myself. So I'm gonna show you how to do this by yourself. Now, because I have all these cameras recording audio, I have a clap that I've put on all of these as well. So let's go ahead. We're gonna zoom into this timeline. And we're gonna come down and line up these first 2 first. So we're gonna look for where I clap. There's my clap moment on that one. Let me go ahead and turn off this camera. And the clap is right around in there. So you can see my spike in my audio at those 2 points. So this camera was recording longer, so we're gonna drive that back a little bit. And we're gonna go ahead, zoom in a little bit tighter. And I'm gonna come and grab this audio point. I'm gonna just click right on that audio point and drag over to where my clap was and drop my mouse there. And that gets that pretty close. Let's check our audio. We're gonna mute the audio from the camera that's live and check the audio as it goes to this one. So you see that lines up pretty well there. And then we're gonna zoom down a little bit. Let's see where we start talking. So you can see the audio's lined up pretty well there. So I'm gonna do that with all the other cameras as well. Once that's all lined up there, everything should be good from there on out. Now, what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna make sure that any other blank channels are gone. So I'm gonna delete this track up top here. Now I'm going to go ahead and probably go ahead and close this one for right now. And this is my timeline that I just laid out everything on. I'm gonna come down and I'm gonna click new sequence from clip. Now you're gonna see this new sequence come up. It's gonna be called the same thing. And I'm gonna change the name on my original one and call it multi. Now you see the new one that came in down here has this all as one unit here, and it's only showing the one camera. What it's doing is it's pulling all the footage from this one up here. So if I double click and open this one back up, you can see all my layers are still set up that way. But now I need to go back to this one, and this is going to be my final timeline that I work with, but I want this set up as a multi-track so that I can go in within Premiere and I can select which camera I want to use. So I'm going to right click on this and we're going to select multi-camera enable. So now when I click on this button here, you can see the multi-camera setup in here. Now it's pulling the 4 cameras from this other track here and showing what I need to. Let me make sure I have that showing. So now you can see back in this one, all 4 cameras are coming through here. So then what I can do within this is just as the video is playing, what I'll do is I'll just click 1, 2, 3, or 4 that correspond to the cameras here. And then it lets me choose whichever track I'm wanting to use, whichever camera I'm wanting to use, and cut between them. And it'll create those cut points along this timeline, switching between the cameras. So this is a great way to have, just record the 4 cameras and then be able to come in here and select the one you want to use as it's playing across. And then you can add your fades or your cuts or whatever you want it to be. So that's how I go through and I edit our worship. I'll go in next and I'll drop my audio wave that has the proper edit down here, and I'll line it up properly, find my clap just like I did before, and have my audio in here. And then I'll go through and I will just let the worship play and then select which cameras that I'm going to use. So that's how you set up a really quick multi-camera with the cameras that you've recorded to do a pre-recorded service. Just pull them in. So back up again, we'll start back up the top, pull them all into one timeline and line them all up. And then you take that file, you can close down that timeline and you right click on it and you select new sequence from clip. And once you have that new clip, which I have down here, you right click on the clip within the timeline and you select multi-camera and enable. And that will give you this setup. And now all I have to do, I can hit play. And let's say I want camera 2 here, and I want camera 4 here, and camera 3 here, and back to camera 1. And I just follow along as the worship is playing. Once I hit stop, you can see these cut lines in here. Let me zoom in for you. And so now, if I were to, let's get out of this multi-time so you can see what's happening. So now when I hit it, it'll cut to that camera, and then it'll cut over to that one, and cut over to that one, and cut back. And all I have to do, what I'll tend to do is just select everything, and then do just a standard cross dissolve on everything. So now you see it'll dissolve between those cameras, and we have a multi-camera feed of our worship. And that's how I set up multi-cameras there. Once I've got this set up here, I'll go back into my original, and each one of these individually, I will go in and color correct. So I'll do my color correction within here on each one of these channels, and these are what is feeding my main setup in here. So my color correction that I've done on the other one will show up within here as well. And that's how I get my cameras balanced and color corrected to each other, by doing them all on this timeline and doing my Lumetri color adjustments on each of these. I hope that was a little helpful. That's a really quick setup to getting into a multi-camera. I'll get back into the next one. I don't currently have the video recorded for my pastor's message yet, and some of those other pieces to finalize my video. But this is where I'll start with my week. Once I've edited the audio, which I've already done, I'll come into Premiere, I'll make my multi-camera timeline for my worship, and I'll now go through and edit my worship. Maybe we'll time lapse this. So let's go. We'll just go ahead and edit this down and let it go. I've got everything in. I've gone in and I've selected everything and added my default crossfade to it all. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select this file, right click on it, and I'm gonna duplicate it. And I'm gonna name this one flat. Then I'm gonna open up that one and I'm gonna select everything and we're gonna go right click on it again, up to multi-camera and flatten. What this does is it saves all of my selections so that nothing really gets moved around, nothing gets changed. And if there's any files that aren't showing up appropriately, it'll fix those. For instance, for whatever reason, in my multi-camera, if I went to this camera 3 shot, for whatever reason within here, it wasn't showing up in my final output, even though it was working properly here and was turned on properly in my multi version, it wasn't showing up here. So whenever I've had that issue before, if I go and I flatten the file, flatten everything, it shows up properly and everything saves down correctly. So that's a good way to get around those issues if you ever have any like that. Sometimes it just means that your file is turned off within here and not showing. You don't have it viewing, so it won't view properly in here. But in this instance, it wasn't that. It just wasn't working properly. Little quirky things in Premiere. I don't know why it does that. But if you go in and flatten the files, everything works out like it's supposed to. So I have a flat file there. And now from this point in time, I've pretty much got my worship section set, except I don't have any lyrics over top of anything yet. So I'd take exported PNG files out of ProPresenter. And that way I just have images of it that I can then go in and I'll start, our first song was We Praise You, and I'll then go in and pull these files over top where they need to go. And then let's go back to the top where our worship starts here. And I'll just take that file, drag it in over top, and let's put the intro and outro on this one, so that then you see my nameplate comes over top. And I do the same thing with then all of our worship lyrics. Whenever they need to come in, I'll just go through and play it. Let's find where our first lyric starts, which I believe is around here. And then fade up number 3, drag it into place. And then I just go through and find each one of them in order and stick them in there. So then I just go through and lay all of those out. Now the reason I do it that way, I could record my output out of ProPresenter, but I've tried that before, and for whatever reason, even if I have all of my frame rates set appropriately, the ProPresenter file always gets out of sync and gets further and further away, and it actually is more work to resync that and find all those places and do that than it is to just play through this file again and pull these in where I need to do that. I'll go through, I will set all of those in place, and then once I've done all of this, I've now got a finished sequence for my worship. And then from there, I'll create a new item, a new sequence that will be called Final. And that's when I'll go in and I'll create sequences for each of these pieces. So my intro, outro will have a sequence, my message will have a sequence with everything built on it, my worship, my announcements, all of that. And then all I have to do for my final file is pull all those different sequences in and pull them into place, line them all up, fix the audios to adjust between them, and then I've got my final sequence. But I'll show you that once I get all the rest of the pieces for our worship tomorrow, and we'll come back and we'll finish this up. So now we're back. I've gotten all of my pieces recorded, and I've already gone and gotten them edited. So I have my announcements section that has all my pieces recorded for our announcements that we've gotten done. I've also got an intro that I've created all of my rotating slides. Looks like I need to fix a couple of them that are a little out of size, but we'll go fix those with my countdowns and everything in there. Got my intro and my outro created, and I am ready to go. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back into my final and I'm gonna start pulling together all these pieces. So I'm back to square one here. So the first thing I'm gonna pull in is I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get my intro sequence, and I'm just gonna pull that in here onto my line. And right after my intro finishes, it has all of those pieces together in it. Now let's go and we're gonna get worship, which is going in next this week. And it is my flat one here. I'm just gonna pull it right in line. I'm gonna pull my audio down to a separate line so I have control over balancing my audio for each one separately. So after we finish up worship, we're gonna go into our announcements that also has the offering moment is put into that one as well as all one unit. So once again, I'm gonna pull it down here to my main line, drag my audio down separately. We finish up the announcements, and I'm gonna go into my bumper video. I need to finish up my bumper video, so it's not here yet. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull in my message. I've got that all finished edited. Bumper video will go in front of that. My announcements will come, or my message will come down to a new line. I'll leave a little bit of space there for my bumper to go in, and that'll be on that audio track there. And then lastly, once the message finishes out, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna get my outro, and we're gonna pull that in there. And I'll leave my outro on the same line as my intro, actually, because it's the same music that I've put in there already balanced out for those, so those will balance out together. So the only piece that now I have to get is I have to pull in my bumper video, which I need to finish out the text on, and I'll get that in there. And so once I have all those pieces in, I just go through, make sure everything is looking nice and clean, and make sure my transitions are done right. So let's check those transitions real quick.
That's right. So grab y'all's Bibles, get somewhere comfortable, and let's get ready for worship.
So like this one here, I have black starting over top of that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull this up here so that my music starts underneath it. Let's see how that looks.
Let's get ready for worship.
So that looks pretty good there. So I have a nice fade. You hear the music for worship start in underneath of them, which is awesome. So once I get my bumper video edited, I'll pull that in the same way as a video file right in there, drop it in, edit it. And then my final piece is just to export this final video all as one file, so that now I have one full file that I will drop in as a premiere on Facebook and on YouTube, and so it can go on our Church Online platform, and that'll premiere tomorrow morning. Well, for you, it was probably several days ago, but for me, it's tomorrow morning that this is going out. But that finishes that up. I have one big file. It's generally probably about 7 to 8 gigs or so to upload. Thankfully, I have fiber internet here at my house, so it'll probably take about 3 or 4 minutes to upload. Premiere is really slow on exporting, so it'll take a little while to export, but that's how I put together my services when we're doing pre-recorded services for a Sunday morning. I hope that was helpful to you to kind of see some of what my process is. If you want to dive any deeper into that, let me know in the comments below, and I can go in a little bit deeper on how I edit maybe some of the individual pieces. I know I showed you through some of worship, but how I put in slides over announcements and things like that for these edited videos. If you want to know any of that, you can hit me up in the comments. So I hope this was helpful to you. Do all the things that YouTube tells you to do, like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. I'm not trying to grow a YouTube channel. I'm just trying to help as many people as I can with all the knowledge that I've learned over the years. So I hope this helped you, and we'll see you guys next time.